Hey everybody, welcome back to another EDH video. Today's video we have the third day of 25 days of deck building this December. And we have mono black Tinybones the Pickpocket. He's a legendary creature skeleton rogue from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I think that's the name of the set. I can't really remember. Anyways, a death touch. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard and spend mana of any type to cast that spell pretty much. He's a 1/1. So with this deck, we're going to be aiming to maybe use a lot of removal to kill our opponents, like non-land permanents, and then also mill them and also make them discard stuff. I know there's a lot of kind of unfocused in that area, but we can also make him unblockable to kind of get him through, kind of make sure we hit it every single time. Because, I mean, he is a 1/1 Death Toucher, but people are still going to block him if they have something good in their graveyard. So we're just going to want to, not be able to make him make him be able to not be blocked is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of the deck. So anyways, this deck has 15 creatures, 14 sorceries, 14 instants, 22 artifacts, 3 enchantments, and 31 lands. I know it's a little low on the lands. I feel like my decks always have a little bit low on the lands and a little bit low on card draw and a little bit low on literally everything. But I never said these decks were going to be good. I said they would function kind of. Throne of Eldraine coming in at $17.50. Pretty expensive. It's honestly the most expensive card in the deck. I just put in all my monocolor stuff because why not? Coming in at $184 is the deck. The whole deck, $184. Pretty cheap, I would say. I mean, it's not over 200. I feel like over 200 is a lot. Anyways, ramp. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of options, but Arcane Signet, two generic. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color to your commander's color identity. Pretty generic. Charcoal Diamond, 2 generic, enters battlefield tapped. You tap it and add a black. It's just kind of standard in most monocolor stuff. You're going to have the diamonds. Fellwar Stone, 2 generic, add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. Of course, it's a 2 mana rock. Mind Stone, 2 mana, tap, add for colorless. You can also pay 1, tap it, and sacrifice it and draw a card. It pretty much goes in all the decks. Soul Ring, tap and add 2 colorless. It's a 1 generic. Everybody knows Soul Ring. If you don't, where have you been? Do you even play Commander? Throne of Eldraine, 5 mana, enter, choose your color, black. You can tap it, add 4 of the chosen color, and you can also pay 3 and draw 2 cards. And then Grim Hireling, 3 generic and a black. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you can create 2 treasures, and then you can sacrifice X treasures, and they get negative X. Slum Simulacrum enters, you can search your library for your land, basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then whenever it dies, you draw a card. Thieving Varmint, 1 generic and a black. Death Touch Lifelink, pay 1 life, add 2 mana of any 1 color, spend this only to cast spells you don't control. Then Bubbling Muck, 1 black, and then your swamps tap for an additional black, pretty much. Pretty good since we're in mono black. We're going to have a lot of swamps. You have Dark Ritual, not really ramp, 1 black, and you can add, you do add 3 black to your mana pool. It's not really ramp, it's more of a ritual. Of course, it's called Dark Ritual. That's, kind of the whole thing. Anyways, removal. There's a lot of removal in here. We're playing mono black. So first up, we got Withering Torment, 2 generic and a black. Destroy target creature or enchantment. You lose 2 life. It's one of the few enchantment removals in black. We have Plague Crafter, 2 generic and a black. Whenever it enters, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and each player who can't discards a card. And then we have Rankle, Master of Pranks, 2 generic, 2 black, Flying Haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each player discards a card. Each player loses 1 life and draws a card. Each player sacrifices a creature. You can choose any of those. Meat Hook Massacre, 2x, 4 black. We can enters, and each player sacrifices X creatures, and then all the other stuff I don't really care about. Feed the Swarm, 1 generic and a black. Destroy target creature or enchantment, and you lose life equal to the permanent's mana value. Another way to destroy enchantments. Toxic Deluge, 2 generic and a black. Pay X life, and all creatures get negative X until end of turn. Just a pretty standard board wipe. Soul Shatter, 2 generic and a black. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker the highest converted mana cost among creatures and planeswalkers they control. We have Sheoldred's Edict, 1 generic and a black. Each opponent sacrifices a non-type creature. Each opponent sacrifices a creature token. Each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker. You can choose those. Rankle's Prank, 2 generic and 2 black. Choose 1 or more. Each player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4 life. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. We have Nuclear Fallout, X and 2 black. Each creature gets twice negative X, and each player gets X rad counters. Mutilate, 2 generic, 2 black. All creatures get -1 until end of turn for each swamp you control. Pretty good. I honestly like this card. Go for the Throat, 1 black and a generic. Destroy target non-artifact creature. It's an instant. Pretty good. I like it a lot. We have Fell, 1 generic and a black, destroy target creature. It's just a better murder, so why not just throw it in here from Bloomborough? I actually kind of like it. Sorcery speed kind of sucks, but it's okay. Fell the Profane, 2 generic, 2 black, destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then it flips onto the back. It's a land. You pay 3 life and have it come in untapped. We have Doomblade, 1 generic and a black, destroy target non-black creature. Kind of bad nowadays, I think, but it's still, I like it. Dismember, 1 generic, 2 Phyrexian mana. Target creature gets -5/-5, so it can be 1 mana to kill something. Then you have Defile, 1 mana, destroy target creature, destroy target creature. Target creature gets -X until end of turn for each swamp you control. Gets around that pesky indestructible. Bitter Triumph, 1 generic and a black. As an additional card, cost to cast a spell, discard a card, or pay 3 life, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Baleful Mastery, 3 generic and a black. You may pay generic and a black rather than pay this spell's mana cost. But if you do, an opponent draws a card and they can exile target creature. Accursed Marauder, 1 generic and a black, enters the battlefield. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Well, each player. Can't touch this. This is the unblockable category. So first up we have, what do we have? Show us Whisper Silk Cloak. 3 generic, can be blocked, and has Shroud, equip 2. Protects our guy, gives it unblockable. That's what we want. Very good. Brotherhood Regalia, 2 generic. Equipped creature is a assassin, has ward 2, and can't be blocked, and it has equipped 1 to a legendary creature. Zephyr Boots, equipped creature has flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, then discard, and then equip 2. Trailblazer's Boots, generic 2. Equipped creature has non-basic landwalk. There's a lot of non-basic lands out there, Equip 2. Skeleton Key, 1 generic. Equipped creature has Skulk, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and discard a card. Equip 2. Silver Shroud Costume, 2 generic. Whenever it enters the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control. That creature gains Shroud until end of turn, and then it has an equipped creature can't be blocked. We have Prowler's Helm, 2 generic. Equipped creature can't be blocked except by walls. Equip 2. Pretty good there. A Nuke Launcher, 2 generic. Equipped creature has Intimidate, and whenever it attacks until end of turn, each defending player's next turn, that player gets some other stuff, rad counters. Aephetic Wisps, 1 black, target creature becomes black and gains fear, and you draw a card. It's an instant. Pretty good. Cliffhaven Kitesail, 1 generic, enters the battlefield, attaches to target creature you control, and equipped creature has flying. There's a lot of flying, but still can get over some stuff. Gruesome Deformity, 1 black aura. Enchanted creature has Intimidate, so it can be blocked by artifact creatures or creatures that share a type with it, color with it. I don't know. Rogue's Passage, tap 4, target creature can't be blocked this turn. It also can tap it and add a generic or a colorless. Escape Tunnel has the Evolving Wilds text, and you can also sacrifice it, and target creature with power 2 or less can be blocked. We have a Lost Jite, 1 generic. Does combat damage to a player, put a charge counter on Lost Jite, and then it has a bunch of other stuff that makes him pretty much not be able to block. Anyways, it's not be able to be blocked. That's what I meant. We got Mill and Discard. We have Vicious Rumors, 1 black. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. Each opponent discards a card and then puts the top card of the library into their graveyard, and we gain 1 life. Unseal in the Necropolis, 2 generic and a black. Each player mills 3 cards. Then you return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Tinybones Trinket Thief, 1 generic and black. At the beginning of each instep, if an opponent discards a card this turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. And you can pay 6 mana. Each opponent with no cards in hand loses 10 life. Tinybones Bauble Burglar, 1 generic and a black. Whenever an opponent discards a card, exile it from their graveyard with a stash counter on it. During your turn, you may play cards you don't own with stash counters on them from exile. And a mana type, you can use any mana type to cast those, and then pay 4, and each opponent discards a card. Tinybones joins up, 1 black. Whenever it enters the battlefield, any number of target players each discard a card, and then whenever a legendary creature enters battlefield control, any number of target players each mill a card and lose 1 life. Pretty good card. Thief's Guild Enforcer, 1 black. Whenever it or another rogue enters the battlefield under control, each opponent mills 2 cards, and then the bottom. Sir Conrad the Grim, 3 generic, 2 black. You know what this card does. Pretty much whenever anything does anything with the graveyard, they deal 1 damage to each opponent. That's it. And then you can pay 1 and a black to each player mills a card. Siphon Mine, 3 generic and a black. Each other player discards a card. You draw a card for each one of those. Mindcrake, 2 generic. Whenever an opponent loses a life, that player mills that many cards. Infesting Radroach, 2 generic, a black. If it can't block and deals combat damage to a player, that they get that many rad counters. And then Goldcrawler's Bell, 1 generic. Tap it. Each player puts a top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. It's just mill stuff. It's a mill strat. Eye Collector, 1 black. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. It's a fairy. It's kind of weird looking, honestly. Dark Deal, 2 generic, a black. Each player discards all the cards in his or her hand and draws that many -1. It's basically a wheel in black. It's actually pretty good. Turtle got a fight, 3 generic, 2 black. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield. We have Nezumi Informant, 1 black and a generic. Whenever it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. They listed another discard strat. Mind Drain, 2 generic, 2 black. Target opponent discards 2 cards, mills a card, loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Just does all the stuff we want it to do. Mesmeric Ward, 2 generic. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. Desperate Bloodseeker, 1 generic and a black. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target player mills 2 cards. Also has lifelink, kind of relevant, I guess. Not really. Altar of the Brew, 1 generic. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library into the graveyard. Alter Dementia, 2 generic. Sacrifice a creature. Target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. Then we have Draw. There's kind of a few options, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. We got this. So first up we have Deadly Dispute, 1 generic and a black. As additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, and you can draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. Knight's Whisper, 1 black and a generic. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. It's a sorcery. Pretty good, basically like a Read the Bones. Read the Bones, 2 generic and a black. Scry, 2, then draw 2, then you lose 2 life. Like I was just talking about this card like 2 seconds ago. It's kind of weird. Sign in Blood, 2 black. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Again, a lot of our draw is going to be costing us life, so we're going to be down a little bit of life, but it's okay. Then we have lands, the boring stuff, of course. Nobody wants to hear about the lands. 24 swamps, pretty standard. I feel like 24 swamps is a good number. Defile can hit something for -24. We have Access Tunnel, taps for a colorless. You can tap 3 and target creature with power 3 or less can be blocked this turn. Our commander, of course. Baron Moore enters tapped, taps for black, and then you can also cycle it, so you can discard a card and draw a card. A little bit of card draw, a little bit of you don't want it, get rid of it. Command Tower, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. It's a monocolor deck. We don't really need this. We could have just put another swamp in. If Escape Tunnel has the Evolving Wilds text, but you can also sacrifice it. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Of course, our commander. Mortuary Mire enters the battlefield, tapped. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library, and it also taps for black. Rogue's Passage, taps for colorless, 4. Target creatures can't be blocked this turn. It's not a land. It's good, better than basic. Witch's Cottage, land swamp. Whenever it enters the battlefield, tapped unless you control 3 or more swamps. Enters the battlefield untapped, you can put a creature back on top of your library. Fell the Mire is the backside of a removal spell. You pay 3 life and it comes in untapped. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the Tinybones deck. This is day 3 of 25 days of deck building. Stay tuned for more, please. I'd really appreciate the support. Also, thanks to Brood or Screw It for giving me a shout out in his Discord. He'll probably never hear this because nobody watches to the end of these videos. Anyways, peace out.